question. Now, are you ever looking for an alternative to a cake? Maybe you've got somebody who doesn't like cake, or you just fancy a change. In this week's video tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make this really fun snowflake cookie. So it's got two giant cookies with buttercream in the middle and on the top. It's then covered in loads of meringues and happy sprinkles. Now, for the sprinkles that I'm going to be using on this snowflake cake or cookie, I'm going to be using some of the really pretty tubs by Happy Sprinkles. Now, Happy Sprinkles have given me a 10% off voucher code for all of you. So if you want to get your hands on some of these sprinkles, just head over to their website or the website of the cake decorating company, and I will put all the links in the description below, and enter Happy Lynn's 10 at the checkout. Okay, let's get started. So in order to make our snowflake cookie, first of all, you're gonna need a template. Now, I've created a template and I will put a link in the description below so that you can download it. And I've printed it out onto 2 A4 sheets of paper. So each sheet has half of our designs. So you wanna cut them out and stick them together. So we're left with this pretty snowflake design. Now, for the recipe, if you have a favorite sugar cookie or maybe gingerbread, then you can use that. But I'm going to be running through today the recipe that I use for my sugar cookies. What you're going to need is 200 grams of butter. Now, I'm using salted butter, but you can use unsalted if you would prefer. I'm going to add into this 200 grams of caster sugar. Now, my butter is at room temperature and I'm going to pop this into my stand mixer with a paddle attachment. We want to beat those on quite a high speed until we get a nice creamy texture. I can then add 1 egg and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. For this, I'm going to add 360 grams of plain flour, which I have sifted so there's no lumps. Now, I'm just adding the flour a small amount at a time, just allowing it to absorb that butter. Now, as an additional ingredient, because we are creating a snowflake, I'm going to add some white chocolate chips into this. So you can add these in or you can leave them out. It's entirely up to you. But I'm going to be adding 60 grams of white chocolate chips, and we're going to allow those to mix thoroughly into my ingredients. Once that mixture has completely combined, you'll be able to get it out of your bowl as a lump of dough. For my sugar cookie cake, I want to have 2 separate snowflakes. So I'm going to take about a third of my mixture to start with, and then going to take a large sheet of parchment paper with a small amount of flour over the top. Onto this, I can roll out my dough, and I want it to be a thickness of around 6 millimeters. I can then lay my template over the top, and using a sharp knife, I'm going to go in and cut this out. Now, all the pieces of dough that we cut out, add these to the rest of my dough for my second piece. Now, because of the shape of my snowflake, this is going to be enough dough to make 2 of these large snowflakes. There will be a small amount left over, which you can use just to make some small individual cookies. Now, the next stage before I bake this is to pop this in the fridge for around half an hour to an hour. What we want to do is try and make the butter that's inside our cookie dough as cold as possible. This is going to stop the shape of our cookie from spreading. You can then take it out and pop it into a preheated oven, which is at 180 degrees for around 15 minutes. We want to keep an eye on the cookie and make sure that none of these smaller edges are burning, so we just want them to go a nice golden color. Whilst that's in the fridge, I'm then going to take the rest of my dough and do exactly the same. Now, because we don't have as much dough, you might find that if you place your template on the top, areas that are going to have excess, you can just move this over and just squidge that into place, making sure that it's completely combined. And then go in with my knife as before and just trim off that excess. Once your dough has been in the fridge, you know that it's ready when you can't push your finger in so it's nice and solid. We can then pop this into our preheated oven. So here we have the baked sugar cookie. Now I've taken this off of my baking tray. I'm then gonna wait until my baking tray has completely cooled down before you add the next cookie onto this. For the board that my snowflake cookie is gonna go on, I've got a 13-inch drum board, and this one just measures 1 centimeter in height. I wanna keep this quite simple, so I'm gonna cover it with some white fondant. So I'm just gonna roll this out until it's large enough to cover my board. Add a small amount of water onto my board to make that stick. Smooth it down and trim off any excess. So add a little detail onto my board and add a few more snowflakes. I'm using the Snowflake Element set by Sweet Stamp. Using the small Sweet Stamp pickup pad, I'm gonna place that on top and just push down, and this is gonna create a little stamp for me to use on my board. Lightly push down. Now, once you're happy with that design, you can see those snowflakes. I'm gonna finish off my board with a white satin ribbon. Now, to decorate the top of my snowflake, I'm gonna be using some of the Happy Sprinkles. Now, these are so much fun and come in so many different varieties. So I've got a few of them here which will work perfectly for the snowflake theme. Now, don't forget you can get 10% off all Happy Sprinkles on their website and on the cake decorating company's website just by entering HappyLins10 at the checkout. So to go on my snowflake cookie, along with my selection of Happy Sprinkles, I'm gonna add a few meringues. Now I only need a few meringues for the top, so I'm gonna make a small batch of my meringue mixture using the egg whites of 1 egg, which is at room temperature. These weigh 33 grams. Mixing the egg whites up until you get these nice soft peaks. I'm then adding 66 grams of caster sugar, slowly adding it in until all of that sugar has dissolved. Once all that sugar has been added, I'm just wiping down the side to make sure there's no excess sugar on the edge. I can then turn my mixer up and mix this for a further 3 minutes. Now I will put a link to a full video I have showing how I make my meringues in more detail. So I'll put this in the corner of the video and in the description below. Once your meringue mixture is ready, it will then hold its shape. So as we pull out our mixer, we get these nice firm peaks on the end. For my meringues, I'm going to create a selection of different styles to go on the top. So I'm going to split my mixture between 3 bowls. In 2 of the bowls, I'm going to colour these in some different blue shades. So first of all, I've got the blue by Colour Splash. I'm going to add a small amount of this in to give me a nice pretty pastel shade. For the next one, I'm going to add a small amount again of this blue, but also add a tiny amount of the Wilton Royal Blue just to give me a slightly darker shade. For my first meringue shape, I'm going to create some textured meringue kisses or little domes. So I'm using the large piping tip, which is the 6B. This one has quite a lot of teeth cut out around the outside, which is going to give us a great texture on our meringue. Bringing in my baking tray, which I've just covered with parchment paper over the top. Apply a small amount of pressure to my piping bag. Once the meringue has spread about 1 inch, I'm going to stop applying pressure and just pull up to create this cute little dome. For my second meringue shape, I'm going to be creating some small little rosettes. So I've got the 2D piping tip, and this one just has a closed star tip. Start applying a small amount of pressure so that a small amount of that meringue comes out. I'm then going to start wrapping my piping tip around the edge, just creating this pretty rosette shape. Once the rosette is about 1.5 inches, I'm going to stop applying pressure and just pull that bag away. Now for my third shape, I want this to be quite white, but also add a little bit of colour. So I'm going to add some stripes inside my piping bag. For the nozzle on this one, I'm just going to be using quite a large tip that has a circle round opening at the end. For the colour that's going to go inside the bag, I'm going to be using the blue Colour Splash food gel. It's got quite a concentrated colour, so it will come out quite dark. So I'm just going to add a small amount of white to this. I'm then taking a paintbrush and I'm going to draw 4 lines on the inside of my bag. Now I know that I don't have much of the meringue mixture left, so I'm just coming up a small way. I'm then adding that white meringue into my bag and just pushing that down, and in exactly the same way as I made the first batter shapes, I'm going to start applying pressure, just allowing that meringue to come out until it spreads about an inch. Once it's at the desired size, I'm going to stop applying pressure and just pull up. And as you can see, we've got these nice blue stripes going up our meringue kisses. Now, once all of your meringue shapes have been piped, I'm going to pop this into my oven, which I've preheated at 100 degrees Celsius. I'm going to leave these in the oven for 45 minutes. After 45 minutes, I'm going to turn my oven off, but keep them in the oven until they've completely cooled. I'll then have these really pretty meringue shapes to add onto the top of our snowflake cookie. Now, lastly, I'm going to create a few small snowflakes just to go on the top. Now, an easy way to do this is just take a piece of white fondant, and I've got 2 PME snowflake plunger cutters. So I'm just going to place these on and just cut out some of those snowflakes. And I'm going to pop these to one side just to dry slightly so they hold their shape. Now, as a filling to go in between my 2 cookies and on the top, I've created a batch of my buttercream. Now, I will put a link in the description below to my recipe. For this one, I've coloured it in a light blue colour, which is just slightly lighter than some of the sprinkles that I'm going to be using. Now, in order to get the blue colour, I've used the Colour Splash Blue, but I've also started with a very small amount of violet just to cancel out the yellow that's in the buttercream. Or sometimes if you're colouring buttercream blue, especially in the UK because our butter is quite yellow, it can go slightly green. So the violet just cancels out the yellow and gives you a nice base to start with. Now, the piping tip that I'm going to be using is the same one that we used for the meringue kisses. So it's a large piping tip with this open circle end, and the end measures around 1 centimetre. So I'm going to pop that into my piping bag. Now, bringing back in my bowl, pop down some of that blue buttercream, take in 2 offset spatulas, and I'm really carefully going to slide these underneath my cookie, just making sure that I'm supporting all of these arms of my snowflake. Taking my piping bag and just starting on one of these ends, start applying pressure to the bag. Now I'm going to allow that buttercream to spread out until it fills the gap, so it's around 1 inch in diameter. I'm then going to stop applying pressure and pull up, and this is going to give me this really pretty little dome. And I'm going to start to work my way around just on the inside. I'm then going to bring in the next layer of my cookie and place this directly on the top using my 2 offset spatulas, just lightly pushing that down into place so it's nice and secure. I'm then going to go ahead, use my buttercream and create exactly the same effect on the top. So for decoration, I'm going to start by adding some of my meringues. Push those into that buttercream, taking some of my happy sprinkles, and I'm just loading up the top of this cake, just making it as pretty as I can. Now, if you want to know the exact tubs of happy sprinkles that I'm using, I will put a full list in the description below this video with the names of each of the tubs. And we've also got the little snowflakes that we created. I'm gonna add those. So here we have the finished giant snowflake cookie, which is covered in buttercream, and then we have these meringues and sprinkles all over the top. I really hope you've enjoyed this video and will enjoy making one of these cookies yourselves, or maybe even a cake version. If you have enjoyed the video, then please do give it a like, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, then don't forget to subscribe to the Cakes by Ned YouTube channel. You can also hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button, and this will just alert you every time I upload a new video. So until next time, bye!